Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loca here. Join me this morning as we take a mid-August garden stroll. So let's go. The quickfire hydrangea is really starting to come into its own. You can see that there's a mix of these light pink colors that always look wonderful this time of year. But then we also have the beautiful creamy white flowers here as well. It's early morning right now. Otherwise, normally this is full of all sorts of pollinators. These hydrangea are in a part sun location and they are set up on drip irrigation. And I want to point that out because I want you to see just how dark green their leaves are. They are very happy where they are. And we have a little surprise there, a little bumblebee still sleeping, and it's too early for it to wake up, but it found a great spot to perch. This area of my garden is going to be seeing some changes pretty soon. You'll notice that we have two quickfire hydrangeas right here. In the center, there's a little bit of a gap. There's a type of spirea towards the back, and towards the front you can see we have coneflower. As we head in this direction, we have the vanilla strawberry hydrangea right over here. So I'm going to be adding another vanilla strawberry hydrangea right here just to really complete the look of this hydrangea border. I think it would look so pretty. Once we leave the hydrangea border, we enter what I call the long border. This area is part sun on the south side of my house. There are a number of flowers in here that bloom for a very long time, and it's worth mentioning them. So we have the beautiful Rebecca or Black-Eyed Susan, looking just glorious. We also have a wonderful tall phlox, garden phlox, and then the purple coneflower. And right near the coneflower, again, we have a lot more of the red bee balm. So lots of different colors going on here in the mid to late summer months. We have another garden phlox, the white one right over here. And then towards the back of the space, we have some Annabelle hydrangeas. One flower that is just budded up and starting to bloom that I haven't shown in previous garden tours is the wonderful grape blue lobelia. The pollinators love it, and it's native to me here in New Hampshire. And then right behind it is another very pretty garden phlox. Some other really pretty flowers that are blooming in here include balloon flower. A lot of people know balloon flower to be purple in color, but this one is really pretty. I had gotten the seeds from Baker Creek, and that's what the beautiful white-colored balloon flower looks like. And right next to it is another white-colored garden phlox. On the trellis, providing that beautiful purple color, is a clematis. It's called tie-dye purple, and it's very striking. In this container pot here is an elephant ear, or colocasia, and I will be overwintering the bulbs of it because it's just such a beautiful plant that I wouldn't want to buy it every single year. It's worth overwintering. Along the front of this border are a number of lungwort or plumenaria. Even though they usually do well in shade, they thrive in this area, especially in certain parts of this area, if they're being shaded out by plants that are close by to them. Peeking through on the other side of the long border here is also a very pretty white-colored coneflower, tucked in towards the back. What I love about garden phlox is there are a lot of different kinds. I just added them to my garden space this year, so they're all very small. But over time, they will get much larger and really fill in this space. And the same is true with the liatris. I didn't have much of it, so I just dotted it throughout this garden space. I like doing that when I want to have different flowers going all throughout this long border. If I don't have many of a certain flower, I would much rather just put one here and one there. And that way, over time, all of those flowers can just spread over time and really fill in the gaps. In this container pot here, we have a Martha Washington geranium, and I recently came in and deadheaded it. So it's very pretty, but it will be coming out with more blooms in the next few weeks. And just look at all the beautiful great blue lobelia that are budded up, ready to put on a spectacular show. In this container pot, we have a Diplodenia. They are definitely not hardy. They're very tropical here in New Hampshire. I was able to successfully overwinter a whole bunch of them, so I'm looking forward to overwintering them again. And at the base of them are some alyssum or lobularia that I started from seed. And right behind are some more of the beautiful great blue lobelia. You can see in this long border that we have the same plants that continue to just repeat themselves. And right in the back of this section of the border, I wanted to show you I have some Korean lilacs. They put on a great display of blooms during the early spring months. And here we are heading into the end of summer, and they're now putting on another flush of flowers. It might not be the same flush of flowers as in the springtime, but nevertheless, I'm really enjoying them. Together, we had cut back a whole bunch of the Stella d'Oro daylilies that are in this flower bed. I just want to show you, there's a grouping there, and we have another grouping over there. And you can see that they're just starting to put out some new fresh leaves. So it definitely tidies up the flower beds when you do that. I have a very pretty tall phlox over here, a couple of them in fact. I just dotted them around. The key is to get them rooted in so I can then move them around to different parts of my yard. And the backdrop over here is a beautiful hydrangea. I've had it for a very long time, so I don't know the variety. And then I have a very pretty balloon flower over here. I just purchased it from my friend who has a backyard plant nursery, so I'm not sure if this is a dwarf variety or the taller one. We'll find out next year. The bluish green colored leaves that you see here are fringed bleeding heart. They have bloomed very heavily from spring into summer months, and they're just slowing down right now. But I need to come in, do some more deadheading, and if I do that, they should push out some more fresh blooms. And then towards the front of this area are some beautiful wax begonias that we started from seed during the winter months. And these are wax begonias that were from seed that I collected myself. They were very slow to start early in the spring, but they've really filled in the space nicely. And I think that's important to keep in mind when we're gardening, is to have patience. Good things will come if we have patience with our gardens. This area is located up along my driveway on the right-hand side, and it's right next to what I call my backyard plant nursery. I've had this area here for a number of years, and this is where I sell a bunch of perennials on Facebook Marketplace. If I'm standing inside of the backyard plant nursery and I'm just looking over or peeking over to the long border, it's just such a pretty sight. I love looking at the long border from this angle. From my plant nursery, if you were to head down my driveway, you can see I have a number of hanging baskets lining both sides of the driveway. And these hanging baskets were made on a budget, like much of my garden is. So inside the hanging baskets, which I'm able to basically reuse the baskets year after year, I have lamium or dead nettle. And that's a perennial, so I can reuse that plant every year. I deadhead it almost every week just to make sure that it keeps blooming for me. I also have beacon impatiens, and these were impatiens that I started from seed that I collected. And then we have the beautiful creeping Jenny. That's also a perennial here where I live. From the driveway, if you were coming up the driveway, on the left-hand side, you would see what I call my driveway flower bed. And this also has a vanilla strawberry hydrangea in it, and it's all budded up. At the base are a bunch of different plants. There are more of the beacon impatiens that we started from seed, as well as coleus that we started from seed. And they're all looking very pretty. In between my two garage doors is a lovely planter that we put together. The highlight of this planter are the zonal geraniums or pelargoniums. We had overwintered those bare root and we brought them back to life. I can't wait to do that again this year. Each year that I overwinter my geraniums bare root, I just end up with bigger and bigger plants. Towards the front, it's looking a little sad. I've been giving it water, but it's having a hard time coming back. There's some Dusty Miller. You'll see repeating plants when it comes to the perennials in my container pots. We have lamium, as well as the creeping Jenny. The Dusty Miller on the other side of the pot looks a lot fresher, a lot nicer. Dusty Miller is not hardy here where I live, so I was able to overwinter it successfully in my garage. And I plan on doing that again this year. But I'm thrilled with how this container pot came out. It really filled in nicely. In the center of the container pot, the grassy type texture is a type of juncus. It's supposed to be perennial where I live. I received it from my sister-in-law last year and overwintered it. So I'm going to try to cut it in half and put some of it in my landscape to see if I can overwinter it again. And then the other half I'll overwinter in my garage like I did the previous year. Right next to my garage doors is the flower bed that I call my side walkway flower bed. There are a lot of beautiful things happening in this area. Let's start with the Joe Pye weed. It is just so beautiful this time of year. So if you are finding in your garden space here in August that there's a little bit of a lull happening in your flower beds, consider Joe Pye weed. It's just so pretty and the pollinators go crazy over that plant. Some other options for a late summer garden and to find flowers that are blooming, we have globe thistle. Another plant that the pollinators go crazy over. Here in the early morning hours, you will definitely find the pollinators taking sweet little naps. This flower bed had seen a little bit of a lull in it during the early summer months. So together we came in and we planted up some container pots. There were different proven winter plants that we had left over from a project that I did at a circle that I adopted, a spot that I adopted. So I wanted to make sure I put those plants to good use. So what I'll do is just pop up on the screen the names of these supertunias that are by proven winners. I'm so glad that we planted these up to fill up some gaps that were happening in this flower bed. What a difference it makes. Each of these container pots are set up on drip irrigation, and I'm giving these supertunias fertilizer, just a liquid fertilizer, Miracle Grow, every 1 to 2 weeks. But I just wanted to showcase them because they really are so striking, so pretty in this area. And I love when you walk around the flower bed, this just pops of color from every angle. You really don't need anything else. We only put together a small handful of container pots, and they've really filled in the space nicely. We have some coneflower popping through, providing a little bit of height and color. But then the other plant that's providing a lot of color right now is sea holly or eryngium. Many of them are just starting to go by, but look at how electric blue the sea holly is. Later in the day, the pollinators will cover this plant, and that's so fun to watch. And I love the color of the blue next to all the pink that we have in this flower bed, as well as the purple. My oriental lily is just starting to go by, but it did provide a lot of color for a number of weeks in this garden space. Tucked into the back of this garden bed is some beautiful yarrow. It has a lot of different colors. You basically have this vibrant pink, but then as the pink starts to fade, you have more of a light pink color, but it's really, really striking, very pretty. The container pots that we put together during the early spring months continue to look just so pretty. They are filled with the beautiful pelargonium or zonal geraniums that we overwintered bare root. And then some other plants in here are the vinca vine, and that's an annual where I live, so I overwinter it in my garage. And then this time of year, some annuals do start to look tired, so I need to come in and just do some pruning. We have trailing lobelia that we started from seed, and it was seed that we collected. And on the other side of the porch here is an identical copy. Just regular maintenance happens this time of year. I give Miracle Grow once a week, and then I just need to come in and do some deadheading. The more I deadhead it, the more it's going to send out blooms, which is why you can see there are a bunch of buds happening, ready to go. And we have more of the white-colored trailing lobelia on this side that we started from seed, and it was seed that we collected. I'm going to be busy very soon. I'm going to be collecting seeds from a lot of my plants, and I'll be sure to bring you along. On the porch, we have some amaryllis that I will be bringing in pretty soon to put them in for dormancy for a couple of months, and I'll show you my process. We have some more of the beautiful alyssum or lobularia, and then the diplodenia that I overwintered in my garage. The window boxes on the side porch here are just filled right up. They're looking so pretty. They are jam-packed with beacon impatiens that we started from seed. When I say jam-packed, I think there's probably a total of 6 or 8 plants in there. And then we have some lamium. We also have this plant that I overwintered in my garage. It's, I believe, considered a perennial. So I'm going to try to put it in the ground and see if it overwinters. I had just gotten a small piece of it. It's a Lismachia. And I got a small piece of it a number of summers ago. And then I just overwintered it in my garage to keep it going. So I will definitely play around with it and see if I can get it to be a perennial because I think it might be a perennial in my zone. It's just I've never seen it in the garden centers. But they really have filled in nicely since when we first put these container pots together. I'll put a link to any of the container pots that we put together down in the description below in case you're interested in seeing what I did to put them together. In the old arborvitae bed, things are still looking nice and lush. Part of the maintenance I'm going to do is come in and I'm just going to be pruning back my lobelia. They need to be pruned back hard just to continue giving us a nice flush into the season. We have some more of the alyssum in here. A lot of these annuals that you're seeing are just annuals that I started from seed, and it was seed that I collected. There are wax begonias, and then we have a lot of coleus in here. Tucked in this garden space are a ton of annuals. And I love doing that because in the center are perennials, but they've already gone by. So the annuals provide a lot of interest and color in this garden space. When we leave the old arborvitae bed, we start heading into my backyard. The hanging baskets on the trees provide really nice structure and vertical interest in a very shady part of my yard. I've been watering them every day pretty much. We haven't had a lot of rain, and it's been an unusually hot summer for us. So in order to keep these baskets happy, I'm constantly watering them. I've had these baskets for probably 10 years now. One thing I am considering doing is maybe upgrading and buying some new hanging baskets that are larger. And when I say larger, I mean that have a larger reservoir because I found that these dry very quickly. I want to show you one thing. The beacon impatiens are just starting to set seed, and I'm going to let them because I want to start collecting their seeds. And it doesn't bother me that the plants might be cross-pollinating and I might have a variety of different colors. Because you can see here, this is what was produced from seed that I collected last year. It's always a fun surprise. The hosta garden is looking wonderful, nice and lush and filled in. I've come in recently and cut back many of the blooms because the blooms had started to fade. Many people ask me about the deer, and the deer do not seem to bother these hosta. I think it's because the hosta are right next to this structure here, which is my barn. So I don't do anything special in terms of the hosta in this particular area of my yard. Well, I do. I give the hosta water because if you want hosta to be happy and healthy, a lot of hosta plants need shade for them to have this nice, vibrant green color. And then if you have large hosta, you need to give them water for them to get to their nice big size. I've made many videos showing my process for dividing hosta plants, so definitely check for those videos on my channel, and I can put a few links down in the description below. But that's how I was able to get as many hosta plants as I have in this garden space. It's just by dividing these hosta plants around over time. At the base of the trees here, we have Lakeside Zinger. It's one of many kinds of miniature hosta that are out there. And you can see that even the miniature hosta will bloom for you. Look how sweet they look when they're all budded up like that. In fact, you can see at the base of the trees here, I have miniature hosta lining all of the trees here, just to make them look a little more interesting. We might as well make the trees in our yard stand out a little, I feel. Much of my backyard is considered either full shade or part shade. So I'm always experimenting with different plants and trying to make a shady garden still look interesting. So some of the interesting plants going on in this garden space are ligularia, and they have just gone by. They were blooming a few weeks ago, but their leaves are still so striking. We also have a number of hellebore in here. Some other interesting plants in this garden space that's very shady include epimedium. There is also the wonderful painted fern, Japanese painted fern. And then some bright pops of color when it comes to the coral bells or heuchera. And then the interesting leaf structure of the pulmonaria or lungwort. There is also a very pretty brunnera. And then right nearby to the brunnera, we have foam flower or tiarella. Many of the plants in here have already gone by in terms of blooming, but I want you to see how much interest they provide in a shady garden space. Towards the back, we have an Annabelle hydrangea looking very happy. And then we have a nice fern here, and that's a maidenhair fern. Right behind the maidenhair fern is a heuchera. Even though the leaves on the heuchera are very pretty, they have a little red to them. The blooms on them right now, this time of year, just look so pretty, so dainty, I would say. Earlier this spring, we had divided and moved a bunch of miniature green hosta towards the front of this flower bed. I wanted to give you an update and just show you how pretty they're looking here. I'm so glad we did that. I really think that having that chartreuse color towards the front of the flower bed makes this area pop. And we coupled the miniature hosta with plants that were already here. And look at how sweet they are. They have a little fern leaf to them, and they are a dwarf goat's beard. Perfect, again, towards the front of a flower bed, especially in the shade. The shade garden looks so pretty, and when you continue heading towards the back of my yard, much of my backyard is considered part shade or full shade. When it comes to flower beds, I still have a lot of work to do in my entire backyard. And that's a lot of space, a lot of ground to cover. I'm not in a rush to do it. It will happen over time. But there is a lot of opportunity in my backyard that I can play with when the time allows. We have some raised beds right there that I'll be bringing you to. We also have the rose garden that I will show you in a minute. But I just wanted to kind of give you some perspective of my backyard. And then right over here is my back porch. And then we end up back where I showed you already, which is my side porch. The impatiens that are here on the back porch were on my side porch. The side porch doesn't get as much sun, and you would think that impatiens need a lot of sun to thrive. But they were looking a little sad, so I moved some container pots around. I'm expecting in a few weeks that these will fill in nicely, but they're still providing some color here. And you can see that I have a total of 3 window boxes that are on this back porch, just to give a little bit of color in this area. Let's head over to the rose garden so I can show you how it's looking. The roses had put on an initial wonderful flush of flowers, and then I came in and deadheaded the flowers. The flowers are now putting on another spectacular show. They're looking really pretty. These right here are a type of drift rose, and I just bought them on clearance from a big box store at the end of season a few years ago. The white flowers that you see are wax begonias that we started from seed, and it was seed that we collected. And I'm so glad that we do that we add the begonias in this space. Because when there's that lull, when the roses are not blooming, these begonias just really fill in the space nicely. And I love the color. I think it's nice to just soften the color a little bit by having the begonias in here. A lot of different roses in here. And these roses are just roses, again, that I've bought at the end of the season on clearance from the big box stores that are local to me. We have irrigation, and when the water sprays on the roses, the rust that's in the water discolors the leaves. But even though it bothers me, it doesn't bother me 100% because I just look past that and I enjoy the flowers that are in here. Sometimes we have to do that as gardeners. We have to face that there's certain situations that we can't do anything about. So let's just embrace the flowers or the opportunities that are presented. So either lots of flowers happening or lots of flower buds. I do like to come in and deadhead my begonias. I find that it helps with the blooming. Since these are begonias that I started from seed, that kind of maintenance is important. And I made a video showing my process for deadheading begonias. I can put a link to it down below, but I will be coming in and doing that maintenance work. The pollinators are waking up. In the center of this flower bed, we had planted some perennials in the early spring months. They don't look great, but I'm going to give them another year because they haven't been here a full year yet. And they are Speedwell or Veronica. They might be getting too wet. I'm not sure. This bed does not have drip irrigation. It just gets sprayed overhead. But I'll have to wait and see. My intent was to have that tall purple color in the center of this area. So hopefully next year they'll put on a better show. We have another drift rose right here. And this one has really pretty white colored flowers. But I really do love my rose garden area. I think it's very pretty. It's the right size. In fact, this is where my kids used to have an above ground pool. And when we had the pool removed, I wasn't sure what to do with this space. And I'm so glad we turned it into a rose garden. One final rose that I want to show you because I just noticed it and it's looking really pretty is this yellow rose right here. It's so sweet. I have been so pleased with the raised beds that we put in during the spring months. There are a total of 6 raised beds here, and 4 of them are Vigo raised beds, and I had shown you in a previous video when we were putting those beds in. The first 2 raised beds that we're looking at here is a nice, beautiful wall of cucumbers. They are loving their life. I'm making sure to keep them fertilized because they are heavy feeders. So I'm coming in with liquid fish emulsion and giving them fertilizer every 2 weeks. We've definitely been harvesting a ton of cucumbers. My husband likes his cucumber tomato sandwiches, but just look at all the blooms on here. It's ridiculous. And it's fun to see the cucumbers growing vertically on this trellis here. And because we weren't sure if we would have enough cucumbers, we planted more cucumbers. I think we're going to have more than enough cucumbers this year. Right next to the 2 raised beds that are filled with cucumber plants are the tomato plants. This year I experimented with doing a single stem on the tomato plants, and I've been pleased. For us, we've had more than plenty tomatoes, more than we need, and we still have a lot more coming. So this system has worked really well for us. I've also been coming in with tomato tone, and I'm sprinkling tomato tone at the base of my tomato plants every 2 weeks. And then on these 2 raised beds that are in the back here, we just pulled out the green beans and we put in a bunch of fall crops, some radish, lettuce. There are another succession of green beans, We have peas. And I'll have to see how they do because sometimes here in New Hampshire, it can be a little tricky trying to get that fall crop going and timing it just right. So I did mark it down, the date that we planted them, and I'm just going to monitor and see which plants do well with this next succession that we've done. But overall, it's been a very productive year for our vegetable garden. We are currently in my backyard, and this area here is on the north side of my house. This has been cleaned up quite a bit. My husband came in and he did some edging, he did a ton of weeding, he cut back a bunch of plants. So we'll be shopping this area pretty soon. This whole area right here is filled with daylilies. And this part of my yard is considered part shade, so it's not optimal. I had planted the daylilies as well as the whole row of peonies because I needed a space to put them when I got them. I didn't buy them. I got them from family members' yards. So I will be coming in here and basically shopping this area, and we're going to be moving them to an area that gets full sun. And when it comes to this area, I'm planning on turning this more into a shade garden. And I'll have to see how that goes. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do yet. Sometimes when we have our garden spaces, it's okay to let an area rest for a year. So I'm anticipating doing that. Taking plants out of here, adding some more wood chips like we did over there, and letting this space rest. But I will tell you, hidden under the soil here are hundreds and hundreds of daffodils. I'm going to pop up on the screen what the daffodils look like when they bloomed in this space. They look so pretty, and I'm not going to worry about them right now. I'm going to keep them where they are. This garden space is what I'm working on these days, and I will be working on this space for the next number of weeks. This area of my yard used to be full shade, but we had some trees cut down during the past winter. When we cut the trees down, this turned a full shade garden into a full sun garden. So I need to play musical plants and shift plants around. The good news is I have enough plants in my yard that I can shop from and bring them over to this space. So we're going to continue working on this area. We've already started, but there's still a lot of work to be done. This container pot has alyssum in it, as well as more of the dipladenia that we overwintered. The dipladenia is being taken over by the alyssum, it seems like, but the bees don't seem to mind. This container pot has a Martha Washington geranium in it. We were able to successfully overwinter it in my garage, and I plan on doing that again this year. And more dipladenia that's being taken over by the alyssum. And yes, friends, I'm making notes to myself. Dipladenia really should just be planted by itself. It can be the star of the show. We don't need to add any sort of a thriller or filler or spiller. I think it looks happy just being planted by itself. This area starts to get a little shady, so we have a lot of coral bells or heuchera towards the front of this garden space. And then towards the back, you can see that we have some hosta. And in the center, there's some astilbe and Jacob's ladder. There are hellebores, plants that do better in a shady area. As we head towards the front of my house, we continue to have the same repeating plants towards the front of this area. There's a very striking sedum. It's a variegated sedum, and I really enjoy the foliage on that plant. So if you're thinking of getting some sort of sedum that blooms in the late summer, early fall, there are so many different kinds out there, but the variegated sedum definitely is striking. It stands right out. A flower that just stands right out during the late summer, early fall months is this lobelia. It's a type of cardinal flower. So pretty. And it's actually considered native here in New Hampshire where I live. and I have a couple of them. That one is blooming, and then this one here is just budded up. We have a very pretty Rudbeckia, and this is more of an annual. So when it drops its seeds, it just self-sows readily around the yard. It was a nice, happy surprise. I didn't plant it here. It's intermingled amongst the hosta that are at the base of this tree. Another happy surprise is this lily, and I believe it's called a tiger lily. And I just want to show you its face, how pretty it is. I got this from my sister-in-law. She has a whole bunch of them in her yard. This flower bed is a little quiet. There are some things blooming in here. This space is definitely considered part shade. So I'm planning on coming in here with more part shade plants and filling this area in with those. There were daylilies that bloomed, and now there are also some coneflower that are blooming. And that's great to know that flowers like that typically do well in full sun, will also do okay in part shade or even full shade. But I would much rather use the space in here wisely and put shade-loving plants. There's a hydrangea that's back here. I don't know the variety. I've had it for a number of years, but it's looking very pretty. If you know the variety or what kind of hydrangea this is, please let me know in the comments below. Sometimes when you use the apps on your phone to look up hydrangeas, it can be a little tricky, especially when they look like this. They're not as distinct as some other ones are. We have a number of mums that will bloom later in the season, as well as a bunch of aster plants. And I just love aster. They're so pretty, and the pollinators go crazy over them. I did tuck in some serendipity allium, as well as some beautiful stonecrop or sedum in this flower bed. So they are providing some interest in this area. Next to the garage, we have the front walkway bed. The Rudbeckia or Black-Eyed Susan are looking very pretty and blooming. We recently came in and added some window boxes to the side of my garage here. So they are in a bit of a lull right now because I had come in and cut back the petunias pretty hard. So in another few weeks, they will fill right in. The flower bed on the right is still work in progress. We had come in recently and we added a whole bunch of lavender that we started from seed during the winter months. And then towards the back, we added some mums that I overwintered in my garage last year. They are perennial mums, and I wanted to give them enough time to root in. And then I had a rose that came from my mother-in-law's home, and I just planted that right here, just to fill the bed in a little bit. But I really am looking forward to watching the window boxes fill in over time. I've been really pleased with how all the flowers have looked up along my front walkway. We have packed it with so many plants. What I tell people whenever they come by is there's no way I could have gone and just bought all these annuals. It's always so nice to start annuals from seed. All the coleus just looks so pretty. It's always a mix. It's a mixed bag of what I'm going to get because I collect my own seeds. We have some gorgeous snapdragons. And then towards the front of the bed here are a bunch of alyssum. And the pollinators continue to just be all over the alyssum in the yard. There's also trailing lobelia. And I wanted to bring you down here to show you some really pretty colors. I'm especially loving this particular snapdragon. I don't have my snapdragons staked. They're all just supported by all the plants around them. My container pots have dahlias in them, and they're just an unwinds mixed dwarf dahlia. They are the perfect size to have inside of a container pot. If you have cranesbill geranium in your landscape and you didn't cut it back this year, remember to do that next year, because when you do that, here we are, middle of August, and the cranesbill geranium are blooming again, and they're looking nice and fresh. We also added some window boxes at the base of the bay window, and I'm really enjoying the look that they provide there. The purple colored flowers that you see are speedwell or veronica. They've looked so pretty for the last number of weeks. They just need to be cut back and deadheaded a little bit so they can push out some new blooms. The Annabelle hydrangea has looked glorious for a long time, and she's just starting to go over. And right near the Annabelle hydrangea are a bunch of different types of echinacea or coneflower, and they're all coneflower that I winter sowed. So they're a few years old now. Lots of different colors going on in here for the coneflower. You know I love my container pots. I really just have so much fun when it comes to making my own container pots. We have a lot of different plants happening in here. More alyssum, a different color of alyssum. More of the trailing vinca, as well as the creeping jenny. And then some more of the unwinds mixed dwarf dahlia. Right behind it is another container pot that has really filled in. There's lamium, as well as creeping jenny, the trailing vinca. There's colocha rose, which is a coleus that we started from seed, and it was seed that we were able to collect. And then in the center is a very pretty calla lily that provides just the right amount of height for the smaller pot. This container pot here has more of the beautiful diplodenia, as well as some alyssum. It's a little bit shadier here, so the alyssum's not really blooming. But what's thriving in this shady part of my front porch are the beautiful beacon impatiens, and also some lamium, and then we have the Lismachia trailing down below. I might have a leak in my pond. I need to look at that because I keep filling it up with water and losing water, so I'm going to have to look at that. But regardless, around the pond, we have a number of different plants, but mostly dwarf hosta plants that are looking so pretty. And then a number of container pots that I really am enjoying towards the back of my pond. Look how big the leaves are on that elephant ear or colocasia. And then a number of beautiful coleus. They are so happy in their container pots, and let me tell you, I'm going to be doing that again. Just filling container pots with coleus. It's such a cheap option to do for impact. They are so lush and full that they keep swallowing up my calla lilies that are in the center here. So I'll have to remember that for next year. Do not plant calla lilies along with the coleus. It's not a good option. The coleus are just too aggressive. But that's how we learn as gardeners, right? I just love the coleus though. Couple that with the elephant's ears. Another plant that I'm really loving is the gomphrena that we started from seed. I wasn't sure how they would do because they were seed that I collected myself, but they have really done well, and I am loving their color. And I especially love the color combination happening here of this color gomphrena coupled with this color of the alyssum. As we end this August garden tour, I'd love to hear from you. Throughout the whole tour, you saw many flowers. Please let me know in the comments below what was your favorite flower or flower combination. And until the next video, make it a great day with gardening.